Hey guys, welcome to Easy's Garage, and today let's change the brake pads on a Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. Let's start with changing our front brake pads. To check if you need to change your brake pads, you're gonna have to look at the brake pad material on either side of the brake pad, and if it's like less than 2 millimeter thin, you should probably change your brake pads. So the new brake pads will be significantly thicker than that. So mine are about 2 millimeters or less, so I'm gonna change those. Moving to the left side of the bike, the brake pads are held together by this pin right here that goes through this hole and this hole. And you can see here, these are the two brake pads, one here and one here, and the pin going through. So we need to take out that pin. So grab a small needle nose plier. There's a little clip locking that pin in place. So let's pull this clip out. There you go. That's what it looks like. And there's I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tiny hole that that clip goes through. Now we should be able to drive this pin through the holes. So I'm going to grab a hammer and a little tiny drift or a tiny screwdriver, and I'm going to punch this pin out this hole. And then pull the pin out using a plier from the other side. Here you go. And I believe the brake pads now should just fall out, or you can take them out. One's out, and the other. And this is what the old brake pad looks like. You can see it's pretty thin. It's almost worn out completely. So definitely a good time to change it. Here's the other one. Now, if you take your bike to a shop, most of them will just install the new brake pads in right now without doing any further cleaning. But if you're at home, there's really no excuse to take out the brake caliper and clean the pistons as much as you can with some brake cleaner. It's just an added 10 minutes, probably at most. I'm going to show you that because that's how I do it. So let's remove the brake caliper. To do that, we need to undo these two fasteners. So you need a 14 millimeter socket. And now the brake caliper will just fall out from the bracket. Go ahead and separate the speed sensor cable from the brake line so it doesn't get in the way. And now we're ready to start cleaning the caliper. I just want to show you how dirty it is. And you can see all the brake dust inside the caliper. So we're going to clean all of this. And it's important to do so because to fit new brake pads in, we're going to have to squeeze these pistons in to make room for the thicker new brake pads. So you don't want to be squeezing these two pistons in when it's all dirty and dusty because you don't want to force that dirt inside. So I've got some brake cleaner here. I've got a rag. I'm gonna carefully spray some brake cleaner here and clean these pistons and the inside of this caliper as much as I can. Okay, so I've got it as clean as I could, and you can see all the brake dust and all the gunk that's come out on the rag. Now we got to squeeze the pistons in to make room for the thicker brake pads that we're going to put in, the new ones. And you can squeeze them in just with your fingers and thumbs. Just takes a little effort. Another way is to install the old brake pads in and then take a screwdriver and use the screwdriver as leverage to push against the old brake pad, which will then push the pistons in. But it's definitely possible to do it with hand, so let me just do that. And you can see I've pushed them in quite a fair bit. So now there'll be enough space for the new brake pads. So I've got them here. This is again from Royal Enfield. You can see how thick they are. And I'll put the part numbers in the description of this video, but feel free to get whatever brake pads you want. What I've done is I've cleaned this pin with some brake clean as well, and I've applied some brake specific lubricant. So I've got this from Brembo as well onto the pin, as well as the back of the two new brake pads. I've coated it with some brake specific lube as well to help prevent the noise from your brake pads and brake disc. You don't have to do this, but I like doing it. Okay, let's go ahead and put these new brake pads in. With the pin and the brake pads in, let's go ahead and hammer this pin all the way in. Make sure there's enough gap between the brake pads so we can put it around the brake disc. I've got my fasteners here. I've put a little anti-seize on the threads, so I kept them ready. Okay, that was quite easy. Now let's torque these fasteners up. So get your torque wrench, again, your 14 millimeter socket, set it to 45 Newton meters or 33 and a half foot-pounds. One final thing, we got to put this clip to lock this pin in place. There's a tiny hole again on the right side. That's where this pin goes through. So I think you can do this by hand. And just squeeze it in. There you go. You can see the pin right there. And that's it. The front brake pads have been changed. Make sure to squeeze your brake lever so that the brake pads squeeze against the brake disc. Do that before you go out for a ride. Now, changing rear brake pads is exactly the same process. I'm not going to show it to you here because I don't need to change my rear brake pads yet, but I'll just describe it. It's exactly the same process. So there is a clip right here, exactly like the front one. Pull it out from here. Then this pin is free to be pushed out. So again, you got to push from this side to that side. Then the brake pads will fall out, or you can pull them out. There's a design flaw, or at least I feel it's a design flaw that Royal Enfield has on this bike. It's impossible to take out this brake caliper and clean it without removing the wheel and the bracket that it's attached to. Because to detach the brake caliper from this bracket, you got to pull it apart this way, in this direction. There are these pins holding it to the bracket, and it's impossible to pull the brake caliper out because the brake disc gets in the way. And so the only way to do it is to remove the wheel and then detach the brake caliper from the bracket. The front brake caliper, you just remove the fasteners, then you can slide the brake caliper out of the bracket and out of brake disc in that direction. But here you can only separate in this direction. So I feel it's a design flaw. I just wish they had given us two fasteners, because now it's impossible to clean the brake caliper properly. I suggest next time you're changing tires or next time you're removing the wheel, even if you're not changing brake pads, go ahead and clean your caliper, because that's probably the best opportunity to do it. And then once you put the new brake pads in, you can then drive the pin in again from this direction to this direction, from the left to the right, and then lock it in place with this clip again. So it's exactly the same process as the front. The only difference is you cannot take the brake caliper out, so you cannot clean it properly. You can only take the brake pads out. Alright guys, hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time, it's your boy Eazy signing out. Take care.